Hey there, I'm Serafina. And let me tell you, there's nothing quite like realizing your own family sees you as expendable. Not a daughter, not a partner, just a tool to be used and discarded when they're done with you. I spent years proving myself, building a career, saving the very company they swore I'd never be a part of. And what did my father do the second he didn't need me anymore? He erased me. From the company, from the family legacy, like I never even existed. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part? He expected me to stay, to accept it, to keep cleaning up after his mistakes, like I always had. And when I refused, he made sure I paid for it. The lies, the manipulation, the threats. The moment I stopped being useful, my own father tried to destroy me. But he underestimated one thing: me. So what do you do when the people who are supposed to love you the most turn against you? How far will they go to keep their power? And how do you walk away from a family that never truly saw you as one of their own? Because trust me, I didn't just walk away. I burned it all to the ground. I was halfway through my morning coffee when my phone buzzed. The name on the screen made my stomach twist. Reginald Voss. It had been years since I last saw that name light up my phone, and even longer since I had heard his voice. My fingers hovered over the screen. A part of me wanted to ignore it, to let it ring until it faded into silence. But another part, the part still carrying old wounds that never quite healed, pressed accept. Serafina. His voice was the same as I remembered. Cold, measured, a man who expected to be obeyed. I stayed silent, waiting. I need you back in Chicago. The company is in trouble. That was it. No, how have you been? No, I miss you. Just a command. A sharp laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Of course, this was why he called. The only time Reginald Voss ever acknowledged my existence was when he needed something. And why would I care, Father? There was a pause, a brief hesitation that almost sounded like irritation. Because this is your family's legacy, and family takes care of its own. I scoffed, leaning against the kitchen counter. That's rich coming from you. Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. Then, in the same emotionless tone, he said, "Be at the house by 8. And just like that, the call ended. No request, no option, just a demand. I stared at the screen long after it went dark. Chicago, the Voss estate, the place I swore I'd never return to. But something in his voice unsettled me. Not desperation. Reginald Voss would never allow himself to sound desperate. But something else. Something I couldn't quite place. Against my better judgment, I packed my bag. The estate hadn't changed. The same towering iron gates, the same manicured driveway leading to the grand entrance, the same suffocating weight pressing down on my chest as I stepped inside. But I had changed. I squared my shoulders as I walked through the hallways lined with old portraits. Their eyes followed me, just as they had when I was a child, reminding me of my place in this family. The spare, not the heir. The dining room doors were open, and there they were, seated like royalty at a coronation. Reginald at the head of the table, as always. Lucian beside him, looking smug. My mother, Ilara, at his right, silent as ever. I took my time stepping in, letting my heels click against the marble floor. I wanted them to feel every second of my presence. Reginald barely lifted his gaze. Sit. I didn't. Lucien smirked. You're late. I ignored him, crossing my arms. Let's skip the formalities. Why am I here? Reginald exhaled through his nose. We need your expertise. I laughed, shaking my head. You need my expertise? Since when? Lucian leaned back in his chair. Don't be dramatic, Sarah. It's just a rough patch. Rough patch. I knew better. I had spent my career fixing other people's financial messes, and if Reginald Voss was calling me, it wasn't a rough patch. It was a disaster. Reginald slid a folder across the table. I hesitated before picking it up. The weight of it felt like a trap before I even opened it. I scanned the first few pages, then the next. My pulse pounded as the truth unraveled before me. The company wasn't struggling. It was collapsing. Lucien had bled it dry. Lavish spending, reckless investments, money funneled into personal accounts under the guise of bonuses. I swallowed the bitter taste in my mouth, lifting my gaze to my father. "You knew." Reginald met my stare without flinching. "That's why you're here." My fingers tightened around the papers. The realization hit like a slap. He didn't call me because I was family. He didn't call me because I was capable. He called me because I was the last option. I dropped the folder onto the table. "Let me get this straight. You ignored me my entire life. Never saw me as your successor. But now that your golden boy screwed up, you suddenly remember I exist?" No one spoke. Lucian shifted in his seat, uncomfortable for the first time. My mother stared at her plate, refusing to meet my gaze. Reginald remained still, his face unreadable. I let out a slow breath, forcing my hands to unclench. I had spent years craving their approval, wanting a place at this table, but now all I felt was disgust. I pushed back my chair. "Fix it yourself." I turned and walked away, each step feeling lighter than the last. Just as I reached the door, Reginald's voice followed me, sharp as a blade. "If you walk away now, Serafina, you will regret it." "Regret?" She almost laughs. "Regret is dedicating your life to proving yourself to a man who never saw you as enough." The cold air outside the Voss estate bites at my skin as I walk toward my car, but I barely feel it. My father's voice still lingers in my mind, as sharp as a blade. "If you walk away now, Serafina, you will regret it." I don't turn back. I don't hesitate. For the first time, I don't care. The drive back to my apartment is a blur, my fingers gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. My mind spins with all the reasons I should have expected this. This was who my father was. This was who he had always been. By the time I step inside my apartment, exhaustion tugs at my limbs, but sleep doesn't come. I sit in the dimly lit living room, staring at the shadows stretching across the floor. I should feel relief. I should feel free. But I don't. The past doesn't just let go that easily. Morning comes too soon. My phone buzzes on the nightstand, and I reach for it instinctively. My breath catches the moment I see the subject line. Board decision, removal of stakeholder status. For a second, I don't move. My fingers hover over the screen, hesitant, as if opening the email will somehow make it more real. But I already know. I already know what this is. I click it. The words are clinical, efficient, lacking any trace of emotion, just like my father. Effective immediately, all shares belonging to Serafina Voss have been reassigned to Lucian Voss. Per board decision, her name has been removed from all company records. Any further inquiries should be directed to legal representation. The phone shakes in my grip. He erased me. Not just from his life, not just from the family, from the company, from the legacy I spent years building. Everything I had ever done, every sacrifice, every late night spent ensuring the numbers made sense, all of it wiped away with a single signature. My father didn't even have the decency to call. Anger ignites in my chest, burning away the last traces of hesitation. I grab my coat and keys. I'm going back. I push the doors to my father's office open without knocking. The force of it makes them slam against the walls, but Reginald barely looks up from his desk. "I was expecting you!" My heels click against the marble as I stride toward him, throwing my phone onto his desk. The email is still pulled up, the screen glowing in the dim room. "Explain this!" Reginald exhales, setting his pen down with a calm that makes my blood boil. "You no longer have a role in this company. Lucien is the future of Voss Industries." I let out a sharp, humorless laugh, shaking my head. "Lucien? The man who buried this company in debt? That's your future?" Reginald's jaw tightens, but he doesn't flinch. "This is how it should be." Something inside me snaps. All these years, I had convinced myself that if I worked hard enough, if I proved my worth, if I showed him that I was just as capable, Maybe he'd see me. Maybe I'd matter. But I never stood a chance, did I? I take a step forward, my voice colder than I've ever heard it. You called me to fix Lucian's mess, and now you're throwing me away again? Reginald stands, stepping closer. His voice lowers, as if he thinks he can control me with his tone alone. You'll be fine, Serafina. You always are. And that's when it clicks. He never saw me as part of this family's legacy. I was just a tool, a disposable asset. I step back, exhaling slowly, forcing my hands to stay steady. You don't get to decide that anymore. Before he can respond, the door opens behind me. Victor Hargrove, the family lawyer, steps inside. The sight of him makes my stomach tighten. He's not here for casual conversation. He carries a folder in his hands, setting it down on the desk in front of me. What is this? I ask, though I already know I won't like the answer. Reginald gestures toward it, his expression unreadable. A contract. I open it, scanning the pages quickly. The words blur together at first, but then the meaning slams into me. A legal agreement tying me to the company's debt restructuring. I snap my gaze up to Reginald. If I sign this, I become financially responsible for Lucien's failures. Reginald doesn't blink. This is business, Serafina, not personal. I let out a sharp breath. Business, I scoff, shoving the folder back toward Victor. You're trying to ruin me. Victor clears his throat, adjusting his glasses. If you refuse, the board will ensure the media sees you as the one who abandoned the company in its time of need. Your reputation will take the fall. I exhale slowly, nostrils flaring. So this is what it's come to. Blackmail. I pick up the contract. For a moment, I let them think I'm considering it. I let the silence stretch, let them believe they still hold control. Then, without breaking eye contact with my father, I rip it in half. Reginald doesn't even blink. If that's your choice, he says smoothly, don't come back. I meet his stare one last time, memorizing the indifference in his eyes. Then I turn and walk out, slamming the door behind me. As I step outside, my breath sharp against the cold air, I realize something. This time, I'm not coming back. But walking away doesn't erase the past. And it doesn't stop a war from beginning. I tell myself that slamming the door behind me was the end of it, that cutting ties with my father, my brother, and the company means I'm free. But I know better. Freedom doesn't come that easily. That evening, as I sit on my couch, staring at the city lights beyond my window, my phone vibrates against the coffee table. The sound is sharp in the quiet apartment, making my stomach twist. I reach for it, expecting another email, another demand, another threat. But when I see the name on the screen, I freeze. Alara Voss. My mother never calls. Not unless something is very, very wrong. I hesitate, thumb hovering over the screen. A part of me wants to let it go to voicemail, to pretend I never saw it, that she never reached out. But another part, the one still craving the mother I once thought she could be, presses accept. Mom, I say, keeping my voice neutral. There's a shaky breath on the other end. Sweetheart, please. I need you to come back. My chest tightens. There's nothing left to discuss. Alara exhales sharply, the sound heavy with exhaustion. It's your father. He's furious, Serafina. He says if you won't help, he'll make sure you never work in this industry again. A cold sensation washes over me. Of course. Reginald isn't done yet. Sweetheart, he's serious, she continues, her voice barely above a whisper. He's already making calls. He says you'll regret this. There it is again, regret. I close my eyes, inhaling slowly through my nose. And what do I mean to him, Mom? Silence. And that's my answer. I let the quiet stretch, let her sit in it. Because the truth is, she doesn't have one. I can't do this, I say finally. Not anymore, Serafina. But I've already ended the call. I stand by the window, watching headlights streak across the city below. My phone feels heavy in my hand, the weight of my past pressing down on me. I have spent years seeking validation from a man who will never give it to me. but I'm done being used. I unlock my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I land on the name I need. Samantha Lee. Investigative journalist, sharp, ruthless, someone I've known since college, and someone I trust. I type a simple text. I have a story. Meet me tomorrow. I hit send. For the first time in a long time, my hands are steady. The next morning, I sit across from Samantha at a small coffee shop tucked away in a quiet part of town. She leans back in her chair, stirring her espresso, eyes sharp as they study me. "This must be big," she says. "You never wanted to go public before." I slide a thick folder across the table. Inside, financial records, insider trading documents, evidence of Lucienne's embezzlement. Her eyebrows lift as she flips through the pages. She lets out a low whistle. "Jesus, Serafina, this is career-ending." I cross my arms. "That's the idea." Samantha glances up at me. "You know what this means, right? Once this goes out, there's no turning back." I nod. "I know." She studies me for a moment longer, then picks up her phone. "Then, let's burn it all down." By the afternoon, the first article is live. The fall of Voss Industries, inside a billionaire family's collapse. The internet explodes. Social media is flooded with speculation. Investors panic. Reporters swarm Voss HQ, shoving microphones into the faces of anyone with a badge. Reginald's name is splashed across headlines. His empire, the one he built on control and intimidation, is starting to crack. But I know better than to think this is over. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning. Because men like Reginald Voss don't go down quietly. The media frenzy around the Voss family is only growing. News anchors dissect every detail, speculating about what will happen next. Financial analysts debate whether Voss Industries can survive the scandal. Comment sections are flooded with people either calling me a traitor or hailing me as a whistleblower. I expected backlash. I expected retaliation. But I didn't expect Lucian to call. My phone buzzes, his name flashing across the screen. I almost let it go to voicemail, but I know him. He won't stop until I answer. I take a breath and swipe to accept. "You have 2 minutes." Lucian sighs dramatically. "Come on, Sarah. Is that how we're doing this now?" I stare out my window, watching the city lights flicker against the night sky. "Why are you calling?" "Because you're ruining everything," he says, exasperated. "Why are you doing this?" I scoff. "Doing what? Telling the truth?" His voice shifts into something softer, something coaxing. "You don't have to do this. Come back. We can fix it together. You don't have to burn everything down." The words hit in a place I don't want to acknowledge, because for a split second, I feel the pull. The old instinct, the familiar urge to clean up his messes, to make things right. But then I remember, he wouldn't have done the same for me. "You still don't get it, do you?" My voice is quiet, but sharp as glass. "I'm not here to fix things. I'm here to watch them fall." I hang up before he can say anything else. For the first time, I don't feel guilty. That night, I'm curled up on my couch, scrolling through emails, when my phone pings with an alert. Fraud warning, unauthorized login attempt. I sit up instantly. Another notification pops up. Flagged transaction, $500,000 transfer request, pending. My stomach drops. I open my banking app, scanning the details. Someone tried to wire $500,000 from my account to an unknown offshore recipient. I feel my pulse hammering in my ears. There's only one person who would do this. I grab my phone and dial my bank's security hotline. The automated voice barely finishes the welcome message before I punch in my credentials, demanding to speak to a representative. The moment I'm connected, I don't wait for pleasantries. Someone just tried to access my account. I need it locked down immediately. The woman on the other end pulls up my profile. "Yes, Ms. Voss, I see the flagged transaction attempt. It was initiated from an encrypted IP address, but the system detected an irregularity and blocked it." My hands grip the phone tighter. "Do you have any details on where it came from?" A pause. Then, the attempted login was traced to a device previously linked to Voss Industries. A sharp, bitter laugh escapes me. Of course! Reginald wasn't just trying to control my career. He was trying to financially ruin me. This isn't about business anymore. This is personal. I press my fingers to my temple, forcing myself to breathe. Freeze all my accounts. No transactions without direct verification from me. Understood, Ms. Voss. We'll initiate the security measures immediately. I thank her and end the call, my body vibrating with anger. This is war. I pull up another contact on my phone. Ryan Caldwell, my attorney. The only person I trust to handle this. He picks up on the first ring. Sarah? My voice is steady, but fury simmers beneath the surface. File an injunction, freeze all of my accounts, and tell my father if he tries this again, I'll take him to court. Ryan exhales sharply. You're serious. I lean back, staring at the ceiling. I was serious when I walked away. He just didn't listen. Silence lingers for a second before he speaks again, his voice cautious. I'll take care of it, but Sarah, be careful. He's getting desperate. I hang up without responding, because I already know, and desperate men are dangerous. Reginald had made his move. Now it was my turn, and this time she wouldn't just defend herself, she'd destroy him first. The morning light barely filters through my curtains when my phone starts buzzing. The vibration rattles against the nightstand, relentless. I groan, reaching for it, but as soon as my fingers wrap around the device, I see the sheer flood of notifications. News alerts, missed calls, emails from reporters. I sit up, pulse quickening as I tap on the first notification. Breaking news. Voss Industries on the brink of collapse. Investors pull out. I stare at the words, my mind blank for a moment. Then, slowly, a smirk tugs at the corner of my lips. It's happening. I scroll through the article. The details hit like gunfire. Major investors have cut ties. Stock prices have plummeted overnight. Reginald Voss has yet to release a statement. I click out of the article and move to the next. Then the next. Every major financial outlet is covering it. Every business analyst is dissecting it. Every talking head is calling it one of the most catastrophic corporate implosions in decades. The empire he built is burning. And for the first time, I feel nothing but vindication. My phone rings. Lucien. I consider ignoring it, but curiosity wins. I answer. The moment the call connects, his voice explodes through the speaker. What did you do? I tilt my head, voice calm. Good morning to you too? Don't play games with me, Sarah. The company, it's collapsing. The investors, they're gone. I hum thoughtfully. You don't say. Lucian's breathing is ragged, unhinged. I swear to God, if you had anything to do with this. I cut him off, my patience wearing thin. Oh, please, Lucian. This isn't because of me. This is because of you. Silence. I press on, my tone sharper now. I didn't gamble with the company's money. I didn't lie to investors. I didn't steal from our own people. You did. His voice cracks. This isn't just business, Serafina. This is our family. I tighten my grip on the phone. No, Lucian. You did that all on your own. A long pause. Then his voice drops, something raw in it. You really don't care anymore, do you? I exhale, the weight in my chest lifting. For the first time, I don't. No, Lucien, I don't. And I hang up. The city stretches before me as I step onto my balcony. The skyline glows, the world still moving as if nothing monumental is happening. But it is. Voss Industries is crumbling, and for once, I'm not the one trying to hold it together. My phone buzzes again. A message from Ryan. It's done. The lawsuit is moving forward. If Reginald doesn't respond, the courts will seize his assets. I smirk, typing back a simple response. Let them. I set my phone down, inhaling the crisp morning air. Reginald Voss had spent his life controlling others. But now, he was losing control of everything. And the worst part? He had no one to blame but himself. The collapse of Voss Industries spreads like wildfire. Every major news outlet dissects the downfall, breaking down every reckless investment, every fraudulent transaction, every moment of incompetence that led to this disaster. It's all out in the open now. The investors who once groveled at Reginald's feet are scrambling to distance themselves. Former employees, once too afraid to speak, are now coming forward with stories of toxic leadership and corruption. Reginald's pristine, untouchable reputation, the legacy he spent decades cultivating, is turning to dust before his eyes. I watch from a distance, waiting, because I know this isn't over yet. And then it happens. A new article drops. I skim the headline, my heart skipping a beat. Exclusive. Insider exposes Reginald Voss's secret offshore accounts. I blink, scanning the article. The details are damning. This isn't just about mismanagement anymore. This is about fraud. And the only way this information could have gotten out? Someone close to him flipped. I don't have to wonder who it is for long. By noon, a face appears across every news broadcast, sitting stiffly in a chair across from an eager journalist. Ethan Whitmore, Reginald's most trusted right-hand man. The CFO of Voss Industries. The man who once stood beside my father in every boardroom, who swore unwavering loyalty. Now, he's the one driving the knife in. I sit back, watching the screen as the interview plays out. Ethan's expression is tight, his fingers laced together as he speaks. I can't stay silent anymore. People need to know the truth. And then the truth spills out. Reginald knowingly falsified financial reports. He moved company funds into offshore accounts. He misled investors, covering up losses while lining his own pockets. And the receipts? Ethan has them. Emails, transactions, documents that can't be denied. The media erupts. The Voss collapse is no longer just a financial disaster. It's a criminal investigation. My phone rings. Ryan. I answer, my voice steady. I saw the news. His tone is sharper than usual. The government is launching an official investigation. I exhale slowly, gripping the edge of my desk. It's happening. Reginald isn't just losing his company. He's going to lose everything. Lucian has gone radio silent. No doubt, he's panicking, scrambling for some way out. But there is no way out. He tied himself to Reginald's sinking ship, and now he's drowning with it. My phone buzzes again. This time, it's my mother. I hesitate before answering. Her voice is small, uncertain. He's not handling this well. I close my eyes, jaw tightening. You mean he's finally facing the consequences? Ilara sighs, the sound fragile. They're going to arrest him, aren't they? I don't answer. I don't need to. For the first time in his life, Reginald Voss is no longer the hunter. He's the prey. And when powerful men start falling, they grasp at anything to stay afloat, even if it means dragging others down with them. I know that Reginald won't go quietly. Men like him don't simply lose. They claw, they manipulate, they twist the truth until they find a way to crawl back to the top. But not this time. I'm in my office, reviewing some reports, when my phone rings. Ryan. The moment I see his name, I know what he's about to say. I press accept, my voice steady. Tell me. It's done, he says without preamble. The federal courts have frozen all of Voss Industries' assets. I lean back in my chair, inhaling deeply. This is the final nail in the coffin. Reginald can no longer move money. No more bribes. No more legal loopholes. No more buying his way out of this. For the first time in his life, he is powerless. The call comes an hour later. I see the name flashing across my screen and let it ring. Once. Twice. Then, against my better judgment, I pick up. For a moment, there's nothing but static. Then, his voice. Serafina, it's different this time. Raw. I stay silent, waiting. Reginald exhales sharply. You've made your point. My stomach tightens, but I keep my tone even. I haven't made my point. The courts have. His voice hardens. Undo this. Call your lawyer. Tell them to stop. A sharp laugh escapes me, cold, detached. Did you call Lucien first? I ask, tilting my head. Or am I still your last resort? Silence. I grip the phone tighter, forcing myself to breathe through the moment. You did this to yourself, Dad, I say finally, my voice steady. You had a chance to fix it. You chose power over family. Now live with it. And then I hang up. I don't hesitate. I don't second guess. And for the first time, I don't feel anything at all. Ryan calls later that night. Serafina. I don't think this is over. I stiffen, sitting up straighter. What do you mean? His voice is careful, measured. Reginald has too much pride. Men like him don't go down quietly. I exhale slowly, staring out at the city lights beyond my window. I already know that. But this time, I'm ready. Reginald had just lost everything, and desperate men were the most dangerous kind. The question wasn't if he would retaliate, it was when. Reginald had lost everything, and men like him didn't take loss well. He would lash out, fight tooth and nail to regain control. I knew the storm was coming. I just didn't know from which direction. I had spent the evening reviewing financial reports when a knock at my door pulled me from my thoughts. I frowned. No one came unannounced. Cautiously, I set my laptop aside and moved toward the door. I hesitated before unlocking it, my pulse kicking up a notch. Then I opened it. And there, standing in the dim hallway, was my mother, Ilara Voss. Her hair was unkempt, her eyes swollen from crying. She clutched her coat tightly around her frame, like it was the only thing holding her together. I hadn't seen her in weeks, not since the fallout. I didn't move. What are you doing here? She exhaled shakily. I made a choice. I stepped aside. Without a word, she walked in. The air between us was thick, heavy with things left unsaid. She sat down on the edge of my couch, wringing her hands together. I stood across from her, arms folded. Go on, I said, keeping my tone neutral. She looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something different in her eyes. Fear. Your father, she began, voice barely above a whisper. He's losing his mind, Serafina. I let out a dry chuckle, shaking my head. That's not new. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. He's blaming you for everything. He keeps talking about making things right. A chill ran down my spine. Making things right usually means making someone else suffer, I said slowly. Ilara's hands trembled. He threatened me, Serafina. I froze. What? She wiped at her face, blinking rapidly. I told him he needed to stop, that he needed to take responsibility. He lost it. She took a shaky breath. He said if I wasn't with him, I was against him. I gritted my teeth, gripping the edge of the table to steady myself. And? Ilara lifted her chin, her voice quiet but firm. I told him I was against him. I studied her, searching for the hesitation, the doubt. But there was none. For the first time in my life, I saw my mother standing up to him. You actually said that? My voice came out more disbelieving than I intended. She nodded. I did. I didn't know what to say. This woman, who had spent her entire life bending to my father's will, who had stood by silently while he erased me, was suddenly choosing differently. I'm leaving him, she whispered. A lump formed in my throat. She met my gaze, her expression raw but determined. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know. I exhaled slowly, pressing a hand to my temple. I wasn't ready to forgive, but maybe, just maybe, I was ready to believe that she could change. For the first time, Ilara Voss had chosen her daughter over her husband. But some men don't accept defeat, and Reginald Voss wasn't done fighting yet. I knew my father well enough to understand that losing control wouldn't make him retreat. It would make him desperate. And desperate men. They were the most dangerous. That's why, when I saw a familiar figure standing outside my building late that night, I wasn't surprised. Lucien. His usually pristine suit was rumpled, his tie undone. His hair, always styled to perfection, was a mess. I sighed, debating whether to walk past him, but before I could decide, he stepped into my path. "Syrah," he said, voice low. "We need to talk." I crossed my arms. "There's nothing left to say, Lucian." His jaw tightened. "You don't get it. This isn't just about the company anymore." We moved to a nearby bench, away from the prying eyes of my building's security cameras. Lucien sat heavily, rubbing his face before exhaling sharply. "Dad's unraveling," he admitted. "He's talking about revenge, about making you pay." I didn't react. Of course he was. Lucien turned to me, eyes desperate. "You can still fix this. If you come back, if you say something to the media." I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. "You want me to save you, again." He flinched, but didn't deny it. I leaned forward, my voice quiet but sharp. "I spent my whole life cleaning up your messes, making excuses for you. And where did that get me, Lucian?" Silence. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. "Dad won't stop. You know that, right?" I exhaled, standing. "Then let him try." And I walked away, leaving Lucian alone in the cold. That night, I took one last action. I pulled up Lucian's number, and I blocked it. No more late-night calls, no more guilt trips, no more pleas for help that only came when he needed saving. Then I scrolled through my phone, finding the last family photo I had ever kept. A picture from years ago, a lie disguised as a memory. I deleted it, and as I did, I felt something new. Relief. For the first time, Serafina Voss was truly done with her family. But being done didn't mean Reginald was finished with her. I should have known that cutting him out wouldn't be enough. Men like my father didn't simply disappear into the background when they lost. They fought back. They clawed for control. They made sure everyone around them suffered for their downfall. And I was his favorite target. I was sitting at a cafe, halfway through my second cup of coffee, when my phone buzzed with a notification. I glanced down, barely paying attention, until I saw the headline. Breaking. Voss Industries under federal investigation. My breath caught in my throat. I clicked the article, scanning through it rapidly. The SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, and the DOJ, Department of Justice, have officially launched a criminal investigation into Reginald Voss, citing financial fraud, money laundering, and obstruction of justice. I sat back in my chair, exhaling sharply. It's happening. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. This was a crime. Hours later, I was at my office, going through reports, when my assistant knocked hesitantly on the door. "Ms. Voss, there's someone here to see you." I frowned, expecting a journalist or an investor looking for reassurance. But when I stepped outside, my stomach dropped. Reginald stood there. His suit was still perfectly tailored, his posture still upright, but there was something different about him. He looked older, more tired, but the fire in his eyes, that was still there. I folded my arms, keeping my face blank. "You're either incredibly bold or incredibly stupid to show up here." He stepped forward. "Undo this, Serafina." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Undo what?" "Your crimes?" His jaw tightened. "You think you've won?" His voice was low, dangerous. "I made you, Serafina. You're nothing without me." I took a step closer, refusing to back down. "Then, watch me be something without you." Reginald's expression darkened. He stared at me for a long moment, as if memorizing my face, as if searching for the daughter he once controlled. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away. And I knew. This wasn't over. That night, Ryan called. "Syrah, I need you to be careful." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "What now?" He hesitated before speaking. "Reginald still has friends in high places. He's desperate, and desperate men." I exhaled, finishing the sentence for him. "Are dangerous." "Yeah, I know. Because Reginald was down, but not out. And I wasn't naive enough to think he wouldn't try again. But what he did next, Even she didn't see it coming. I was expecting retaliation, a last-ditch effort, some pathetic attempt to reclaim his throne. What I wasn't expecting was this. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated before answering. A low, unfamiliar voice rasped through the speaker. "Stop pushing this, Miss Voss. You don't want to make more enemies." The words sent a chill down my spine. A threat, a real one. My grip on the phone tightened. "Who is this?" Silence. Then the line went dead. I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding. Reginald. Even now, even backed into a corner, he was still pulling strings. The next morning, I met Ryan at his office. He barely looked up from his desk as I walked in. "You look like hell!" I dropped into the chair across from him. "I need everything tied up, now." That got his attention. He leaned forward, hands clasped. "You're serious?" I met his gaze without hesitation. "I'm done, Ryan. I'm leaving this behind. For good." He studied me for a long moment before nodding. "I'll make it happen." I exhaled, the weight of it settling over me. No more Voss Industries, no more Reginald, no more fighting for a place I never truly had. It was over. That night, I packed my bags. It didn't take long. Most of my past wasn't worth bringing with me. As I zipped up my suitcase, I pulled out my phone. One last thing to do. I typed out a message to Lucian. "This is the last time I'll ever reach out. You made your choice. I made mine." I hovered over the send button for a moment, then pressed it. I didn't wait for a reply. I blocked his number. The last thread tying me to the past, severed. As the plane lifted off the runway, I exhaled. For the first time in my life, I was truly free. But what he did next, even she didn't see it coming. I thought I knew what to expect. Retaliation, backroom deals, maybe even an attempt to spin the media in his favor. But this was a different kind of attack. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at the screen, debating whether to answer. My instincts screamed at me to ignore it, but something in my gut told me otherwise. I pressed accept. For a second, there was nothing but silence. Then a low voice slithered through the speaker. "Stop pushing this, Miss Voss. You don't want to make more enemies." My blood ran cold. This wasn't one of Reginald's usual legal threats. This wasn't him sending Lucienne to beg. This was different. A real threat. I gripped the phone tighter, steadying my breathing. "Who is this?" Silence. Then the line went dead. I pulled the phone away, staring at the screen. I already knew the answer. Reginald. Even now, backed into a corner, he was still pulling strings. The next morning, I walked into Ryan's office without knocking. He looked up, immediately reading the tension in my face. "What happened?" I dropped into the chair across from him, jaw tight. "I need everything tied up, now." Ryan set his pen down. "You're serious?" I met his gaze. "I'm done, Ryan. I'm leaving this behind, for good." He studied me for a long moment, then sighed, nodding. "I'll make it happen." I leaned back, exhaling. The weight of it all settled in my chest. No more Voss Industries. No more Reginald. No more fighting for a place I was never meant to have. It was over. That night, I packed my bags. It didn't take long. Most of my past wasn't worth bringing with me. The apartment was eerily silent as I zipped my suitcase shut. One last thing to do. I pulled out my phone, my fingers hovering over a familiar name. Lucienne. I typed the message. "This is the last time I'll ever reach out. You made your choice." I made mine. I pressed send. I didn't wait for a reply. I blocked his number. The last thread tying me to the past, severed. As the plane lifted off the runway, I exhaled. For the first time in my life, I was truly free. For the first time, Serafina doesn't just walk away. She slams the door shut forever. I had spent years keeping my head down, taking the hits, letting people rewrite the narrative to suit their needs. But this time, I was done. I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. A flood of missed calls, emails piling up. social media notifications exploding at a pace that made my stomach twist. I blinked at the bright screen, rubbing the sleep from my eyes as I scrolled through the endless alerts, until one headline made my breath catch. Exclusive: Serafina Voss, the woman who destroyed her own family. I sat up so fast my sheets tangled around my legs. I clicked on the article, scanning the words. Lies. All of it. That I had deliberately sabotaged Voss Industries. That I had turned against my own father in an act of revenge. That I had betrayed the family for personal gain. They painted me as the villain. The cold, ruthless daughter who had orchestrated her own family's collapse. And there was only one person who could have fed them this story. Reginald. His final move. Ryan's name flashed across my screen. I answered before it finished ringing. You need to issue a statement. Now his voice was sharp, urgent, but I wasn't panicking. Not anymore. I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening around the phone. No, I said, my voice calm. I'm going to do something better. Ryan hesitated. What are you planning? I picked up my other phone and scrolled through my contacts until I landed on the name I needed. Samantha Lee. A journalist I trusted. Someone who had no loyalty to the Voss empire. Someone who had always been waiting for the full story. I pressed dial. She answered on the first ring. Sarah, she said cautiously. I was about to call you. I'm ready, I said, cutting straight to the point. I'll give you everything. The full story, on the record. No more hiding. A pause. Then, meet me at the station in an hour. An hour later, I sat in front of a camera. Live. No pre-recorded statements. No edited press releases. Just me, the truth, and the entire world watching. I laid everything bare. The financial fraud. The manipulation. The reality of what had happened to Voss Industries. I told the world exactly who Reginald Voss was. And at the end, I said the one thing that sealed his fate. My father is a liar. And now, the world knows it too. The fallout was immediate. The internet turned on Reginald. More former employees came forward with damaging evidence. Investors announced a full-scale lawsuit. And just like that, the empire he had built on deception came crashing down. And me? I felt nothing but relief. Reginald had played his last card. And he had lost. But Reginald Voss was never a man who accepted defeat quietly. I knew the moment I went public, he wouldn't just sit back and let it happen. He would retaliate. And he did. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Calls, emails, social media notifications exploding by the second. I grabbed my phone, my stomach twisting as I read the first headline that caught my eye. Exclusive: Serafina Voss, the woman who destroyed her own family. My chest tightened. I clicked the article, scanning the words. Lies. Every single one of them. That I had deliberately sabotaged Voss Industries. That I had betrayed my family out of spite. That I was nothing more than a greedy, vengeful daughter who turned on her own blood. It was calculated. It was cruel. And it had Reginald written all over it. I exhaled sharply, gripping my phone. This was his final move. Ryan's name flashed on my screen. I answered immediately. You need to issue a statement. Now I didn't hesitate. Number, I'm going to do something better. Ryan was silent for a moment. Then, cautiously, What are you thinking? I picked up my other phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found her name. Samantha Lee. I pressed dial. She answered after the first ring. Sarah, she said, her voice careful. I was about to call you. I'm ready, I said, my voice steady. I'll give you everything, the full story, on the record, live. There was a pause, then, meet me at the station in an hour. An hour later, I sat in front of a camera. No scripts, no pre-approved edits, just me. And the truth. I laid it all out. The financial fraud, the manipulation, the truth about who Reginald Voss really was. I told the world everything, and when I reached the end, I sealed his fate with one final cutting statement. My father is a liar. And now the world knows it too. The fallout was instant. The internet turned on Reginald. Former employees came forward, sharing their own stories of deception and corruption. Investors announced a full-scale lawsuit. Everything Reginald had built, his empire, his influence, his legacy, collapsed. And me, I felt nothing but relief. Reginald had played his last card, and he had lost. But men like him never go down without a final act of desperation. I should have known. I should have expected it. But somehow, even after everything, Reginald still found a way to sink lower. I was sitting in my office, reviewing legal documents, when Ryan stormed in, his face pale. "You're not going to believe what he just did." I barely looked up. "What now?" He tossed a folder onto my desk. I flipped it open. My stomach twisted. Doctored financial statements, fake accusations, a lawsuit against me. I scanned the pages, my pulse pounding. Reginald was trying to frame me. He was trying to bury me under the same crimes he committed. Ryan's voice was urgent. "If this sticks, Sarah, you could lose everything." I exhaled sharply, my grip tightening around the papers. "Then let's make sure it doesn't." An hour later, I sat in a conference room with my legal team. We dissected every false claim, every fabricated piece of evidence. And then, we found it. A flaw. A document timestamp that didn't match. The evidence had been tampered with, sloppily. I picked up my phone and dialed Samantha Lee. "I have one more story for you." That evening, a new headline dropped. Exclusive. Reginald Voss' desperate attempt to frame his own daughter. The internet exploded. Investigators swooped in, examining every inch of Reginald's last-ditch effort to save himself. And just like that, his plan backfired. The courts dismissed his case immediately, and now, he was the one facing additional criminal charges. I watched the news as Reginald's world collapsed. A live broadcast flickered across the screen. A judge had issued a warrant for his arrest. My phone rang. I answered without looking at the caller ID. Alara's voice was trembling. "They're taking him in, Serafina." I inhaled deeply, my voice steady. Good. Reginald had spent his life controlling people, but now he was just another man in handcuffs. And for the first time, Serafina wasn't looking over her shoulder anymore. No more waiting for retaliation. No more expecting a counterattack. It was done. The trial of Reginald Voss was everywhere. News anchors dissected every legal argument. Courtroom sketches filled the screens, each one depicting a man who once commanded power, now reduced to nothing. Video clips showed him being led in by federal agents, hands cuffed, face grim. Legal analysts speculated about sentencing, decades in prison, a lifetime of deceit catching up with him all at once. I watched, but I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no grief, just a quiet acceptance that this was always how it had to end. My phone buzzed. Lucien. I considered ignoring it, but against my better judgment, I picked up. His voice was hollow. "It's over, isn't it?" I exhaled. "Yeah, it is." A bitter chuckle. "I used to think we'd be invincible, that no matter what, we'd have the Voss name to protect us." I was quiet for a long moment before speaking. Maybe that was the problem. Silence stretched between us, heavy with everything unspoken. Finally, Lucian sighed. "Goodbye, Sarah." I didn't say it back. Instead, I ended the call. And this time, I didn't feel guilty. A week later, I sat in my new office, a business I built myself, one with no ties to the Voss empire. Ryan knocked on my door. I looked up. "Yeah." He leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "The sentencing came in." I nodded, not asking for details. Ryan watched me for a beat. "You really don't care?" I met his gaze. Then, for the first time in a long time, I smiled. A real one. Number I really don't. For the first time, Serafina was no longer running from the past, because it no longer had any power over her. And with that, she stepped forward into a future that was entirely her own. No chains, no lingering shadows, just her. I sorted through my mail, barely paying attention. Bills, business correspondence, a thank you note from a client. And then, a letter. I stopped. The handwriting was familiar. Alara. I hesitated before tearing open the envelope. Inside, the words were simple. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope, one day, we can find a way back to each other. I exhaled slowly. I expected to feel anger, resentment, but instead, there was only understanding. Some wounds never fully heal, but some, with time, just might. I stepped into the office of my new company, my consulting firm. No ties to the Voss name, no legacy I had to prove myself against, just hard work, dedication, and freedom. A knock at the door. I turned. My assistant smiled. "Your first client is here." I smoothed my blazer, feeling something I hadn't in years. Excitement, purpose, a life that was truly mine. I smiled. "Let's get to work." That evening, I sat on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. The past was still there. It always would be. But it no longer defined me. My phone buzzed, an unknown number. I stared at it for a moment. And then, I let it ring. Whoever it was, they belonged to the life I had left behind. I blocked the number and set the phone down. And for the first time, I chose peace. Serafina Voss had won, not through money, power, or revenge, but by reclaiming her own life. And nothing could take that away from her. For years, I fought for a place in a family that never truly saw me. I gave, I sacrificed, and in the end, I realized my worth was never theirs to define. Walking away wasn't losing, it was winning on my own terms. Because true power? It's not in money, not in legacy, it's in knowing who you are and refusing to let anyone take that away. If this story resonates with you, hit subscribe, because your worth isn't measured by what you leave behind, but by the life you choose to build.